Most people live by default, not by design. From a young age, we are shaped by external influences, family expectations, school systems, media, and social circles. We're told who we should be, what success looks like, and what's worth pursuing. Over time, we adopt labels that aren't truly ours. We become defined by roles, achievements, or other people's opinions. Jay Shetty opens the book with a focus on identity. He explains how the world programs us to chase things that look good on the outside, but leave us empty on the inside. He contrasts two ways of thinking: the monkey mind and the monk mind. The monkey mind is restless, easily distracted, and constantly comparing. The monk mind, on the other hand, is calm, focused, and clear. Jay's journey started when he met a monk during college. While his peers chased corporate careers and traditional success, Jay was drawn to something deeper, something anchored in purpose. After graduating, he made an unconventional decision. He left behind the life everyone expected of him and traveled to India to live in an ashram. For 3 years, he trained as a monk, waking at 4 a.m., meditating, serving, and living a life of simplicity. The first major shift he experienced was in understanding who he really was, separate from his environment, achievements, or social labels. Monks begin by shedding their external identities. They believe clarity only comes when you remove the noise. To live with intention, you must declutter your mental space. That means asking, am I living by my values or by someone else's expectations? Do I even know what my values are? Jay emphasizes that self-awareness begins with examining our influences. We inherit opinions, beliefs, and fears from people around us: parents, teachers, peers, often without questioning their truth. Monks challenge every assumption. They focus on discovering their authentic self by looking inward, not outward. In the second chapter, Jay turns to negativity. He describes it as one of the biggest forms of mental pollution. Just like we're careful about what we eat or breathe, we should be equally careful about what we allow into our minds. Negativity can come in many forms: criticism, gossip, comparison, jealousy, fear-based content, or even self-doubt. Jay explains that we often absorb these energies without realizing it, through social media, news, toxic relationships, or internal narratives we've carried for years. Monks are extremely intentional about what they allow into their mental space. They avoid negative conversations, energy-draining people, and unfiltered media. Jay suggests we should do the same, starting by observing what leaves us feeling anxious, angry, or insecure. He introduces a method called spot, stop, and swap. First, spot the source of negativity, whether it's a person, habit, or thought. Then, stop engaging with it. Create space or set boundaries. Finally, swap it for something constructive, something that feeds peace instead of chaos. He also explores the concept of gossip. Monks take a vow to avoid gossip not just to be kind, but because it creates mental clutter. Speaking poorly of others lowers our energy, fuels judgment, and pulls us away from compassion. Jay encourages practicing mindful speech, only speaking if what we say is true, helpful, and kind. A deeper layer of negativity is internal resentment or pain. That's where forgiveness becomes crucial. Jay clarifies that forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of holding on. Resentment ties us to the past. Forgiveness cuts the rope. Jay shares that during monk training, he had to reflect deeply on people he hadn't forgiven. Mentors who had let him down, friends who had betrayed him. In learning to forgive, he didn't excuse the behavior. He simply chose to release the emotional hold it had on him. The third chapter focuses on fear. Fear is something we all face. Fear of failure, rejection, uncertainty, or not being good enough. Jay explains that fear often begins in the mind as a story. We imagine future scenarios and believe them to be real, even if they haven't happened yet. Monks learn to respond to fear through observation and awareness. They don't run from it or suppress it. Instead, they sit with it, examine it, and understand it. Jay writes that fear can be a teacher if we're willing to listen. He introduces the concept of chitta, a Sanskrit term referring to the consciousness of the mind. A peaceful chitta allows you to see fear clearly without letting it control your actions. Fear only gains power when we resist or avoid it. Jay also explains the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is part of life. Loss, disappointment, challenges. Suffering happens when we replay that pain, resist it, or try to control the uncontrollable. Monks are trained to accept pain, process it, and let it pass through, rather than allowing it to become their identity. One tool monks use is visualization. They mentally prepare for discomfort. For example, they imagine what it feels like to be criticized or to fail, and then visualize how they will remain calm, grounded, and unaffected. This mental training builds resilience. Jay shares that during his time in the ashram, one of his biggest fears was that he was wasting time, that walking away from the real world would cost him a future. But eventually he realized that fear was rooted in comparison. He was measuring his journey against others instead of trusting his own path. Letting go of fear means choosing courage over comfort, clarity over confusion, and growth over stagnation. It means making decisions from a place of purpose, not pressure. By the end of part 1, the message is clear. To build a life of peace and intention, you must begin by letting go. Let go of the false identity shaped by others. Let go of the negativity that clouds your mind. Let go of the fear that limits your growth. This is how the monk mind begins to form, not by addition, but by subtraction. The path to clarity starts with release. Once the noise is cleared, the real work begins. After letting go, the next phase of the monk mindset is growth. Not just external success, but internal alignment. Growth rooted in clarity, purpose, and intentional living. Jay begins this section with intention. In the modern world, many people confuse action with progress. We're constantly doing, checking boxes, replying to messages, attending meetings, but without intention, action can become empty motion. Monks ask one key question before every task: why am I doing this? Jay explains that intention comes in 3 layers: fear, desire, and duty. Fear-based intention is driven by insecurity. Desire-based intention is driven by ego or personal gain. Duty-based intention is driven by purpose and service. He gives a simple example. 2 people donate money. One does it for recognition, the other for impact. Same action, different energy. The second person acts from duty, and that's where peace lives. To grow with intention, Jay recommends aligning daily actions with your core values. That means defining what really matters to you, not what's trending or what others expect. Values like compassion, honesty, or humility become your internal compass. Monks revisit their values constantly to stay aligned. Next, Jay turns to routine. Growth requires structure. At the ashram, monks follow strict schedules: early mornings, silent meals, long meditations. This routine isn't restrictive, it's liberating. When your day has structure, your mind has space to focus on what matters. Jay describes how waking at 4 a.m. became one of his most powerful habits. The stillness of early morning allows clarity. He built rituals around that time: meditation, journaling, reflection, and intentional learning. These weren't tasks, they were nourishment for his mind. He emphasizes that you don't need a monk's schedule to benefit from routine. Even a short, mindful morning ritual can transform your day. The key is consistency. A strong morning sets the tone, and a mindful evening resets your energy. Jay suggests beginning with simple practices. Wake up at the same time every day. Avoid your phone for the first 30 minutes. Start with silence, breathwork, or gratitude. Review your priorities before the day begins. Discipline is a form of self-respect. It's choosing what you need over what you want. And over time, it builds confidence. The next chapter explores the mind. Jay explains that monks treat the mind like a muscle. Just like the body, it needs regular training. Without it, the mind becomes reactive, chaotic, and weak. One of the primary tools for mental training is meditation. In the ashram, Jay practiced multiple forms: breath awareness, mantra meditation, visualizations. Each method had the same goal: to observe the mind without judgment and guide it gently toward stillness. Jay explains how thoughts arise like waves, but we are not the waves. We are the ocean. The monk mind learns to observe thoughts rather than becoming them. With daily practice, the mind becomes quieter, clearer, more focused. He also introduces the idea of thought auditing. Most people repeat the same types of thoughts daily, many of which are negative or unhelpful. Jay recommends spending time each day noting what kinds of thoughts dominate your mind. Are they judgmental? Are they anxious? Are they focused on the past or future? By observing your thoughts, you create distance from them, and in that space, you regain control. Another powerful practice monks use is breathwork. Jay explains that the breath is the bridge between the body and mind. When the breath is slow and steady, the mind becomes calm. When the breath is shallow and erratic, the mind becomes restless. Even a few minutes of conscious breathing can lower stress, boost clarity, and ground you in the present moment. Jay shares one of the most important lessons he learned during monk life. The mind doesn't obey automatically. It must be trained with love, patience, and practice. The goal isn't to silence the mind completely. It's to guide it gently towards stillness and focus. This section also emphasizes the importance of learning. Monks devote time each day to study, not to collect facts, but to cultivate wisdom. Jay explains the difference. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is transformation. Knowledge fills the mind. Wisdom shapes the heart. He encourages intentional learning, reading, listening, and reflecting on ideas that deepen your understanding of yourself and others. Growth is not just about productivity. It's about developing awareness, compassion, resilience, and purpose. Jay concludes this section by reminding us, growth is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, with intention, structure, and a trained mind. When you live from this place, growth is no longer scattered. It becomes focused and fulfilling. The final step in the monk mindset is outward. After letting go and growing within, the natural next phase is to give. Not from pressure, guilt, or ego, but from purpose. Giving, in monk philosophy, is not about sacrifice. It's about expansion. When we give, we become more of who we're meant to be. Jay begins this section with gratitude. Monks practice gratitude daily, not as a surface-level exercise, but as a deep, embodied state of mind. Gratitude trains the mind to focus on what's present, rather than what's missing. It moves the mind from scarcity to abundance. In the ashram, gratitude was woven into every routine. Before meals, monks expressed thanks for the food, the farmers, the cooks, and even the soil that nurtured the crops. Jay shares that this level of gratitude transforms even ordinary routines into moments of reverence. He explains that gratitude isn't just about the big moments, like achievements or celebrations. True gratitude is found in the everyday. Clean water, a smile, the breath in your lungs. And when practiced consistently, gratitude rewires the brain to notice beauty, even in difficulty. Jay suggests a daily gratitude practice. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for, and go a level deeper by asking, why? This activates the emotional connection, not just the mental list. Next, Jay explores relationships. Monks view relationships as sacred, whether romantic, familial, or friendships. The quality of your relationships directly shapes the quality of your life. But relationships must be nurtured with awareness. Jay shares a powerful idea. Most people enter relationships to get something: validation, love, attention, security. But monks approach relationships as places to give time, understanding, compassion, and presence. He introduces the 4 types of trust destroyers in relationships: complaining, comparing, criticizing, and competing. These patterns, often unconscious, slowly erode connection. Monks avoid these habits by focusing on listening over reacting, understanding over judging. Jay also explains the monk model of communication. It's built on 3 pillars: speak with intention, listen with presence, respond with compassion. He tells the story of a monk who once said nothing during an argument. When asked why, he replied, "I was listening for what wasn't being said." That level of presence takes training, but it builds deeper, more authentic bonds. Another core teaching from monk life is to serve. In the ashram, service, or seva, is not optional. It's central. Every monk contributes, sweeping, cooking, cleaning, not because they're told to, but because service is how you dissolve ego. Jay learned that the most powerful form of giving is giving without expecting anything in return. That's when giving becomes pure. Service expands the self because it reminds you that you are part of something bigger than your own desires. He challenges the modern idea that success is about accumulation. Monks define success as how well you serve others. It's not about how much you have, but how much you give. Your time, attention, presence, or energy. Jay explains that even small acts of service can change lives. A kind word, a moment of patience, helping someone feel seen. You don't need a big platform to serve. You just need intention. He also addresses burnout. Giving doesn't mean depleting yourself. Monks give from overflow, not emptiness. That's why the earlier stages, letting go and growing, are essential. You must fill yourself with peace and purpose before you can pour into others. Jay introduces the idea of a circle of influence. You can't help everyone, but you can help the people around you, your family, your team, your community. When you show up with presence and care, that impact ripples outward. He also touches on legacy. Monks think long-term. They ask, what impact will I leave behind? Not in terms of fame or fortune, but in how people felt around them. Did they feel heard, loved, safe? Your legacy is built in the present, one interaction at a time. Toward the end of the book, Jay brings the monk mindset into the real world. He explains that you don't have to live in an ashram to think like a monk. The principles can be applied anywhere, at work, in relationships, at home. He offers practical ways to give in everyday life. Start conversations with curiosity, not assumptions. Offer sincere compliments. Volunteer your time or skills. Practice active listening. Be present without distractions. Giving is not about being perfect. It's about being willing. A willing heart, a clear mind, and a grounded purpose. That's the foundation of the monk life. Jay closes by reminding us that the monk mindset is not an escape from life. It's a deeper way of living it. It's not about silence or detachment. It's about presence, clarity, and service. When you live with intention, grow with discipline, and give with love, you begin to experience true peace.